Dear grade 12 students, welcome to today's English lesson. This is reading 7b part 2. Please make sure to have your books opened on pages 104 and 105 throughout the lesson. There are two objectives to consider for today's lesson. By the end of this lesson, you're expected to be able to practice reading comprehension by completing short notes, identifying validity of given details, and linking rephrased information in their whereabout in the text. And you're expected to be able to guess the meaning of 7 vocabulary items from context. Well, let's start today's lesson with this question. Which of the misconceptions, the false ideas that we have based on our misunderstanding? Do you remember the word misconception from yesterday's lesson? I hope that you do. So, which of the misconceptions about Sherlock Holmes did you find surprising? Pause the video and answer the question. Well, the fact that he's younger than he's portrayed, he's described in the movies is surprising. And the fact that he failed to solve some cases is again surprising to me. What about you? Let's get to exercise C. You're supposed to complete the sentences with no more than one word from the text. Okay, I've got a question for you. Are these sentences the same as the ones in the text? Of course, they are not. So how can we answer this kind of questions? I will tell you. First, you need to find a keyword, a word that you can look for in the text, and this way it will be easy for you to find your answer. Let's do sentence 1 as an example. One of Sherlock Holmes' most recognizable features is his unusual hat. So in this case, the word hat is a key word. So we should look for the word hat in the text. And then we're to decide what kind of hat is missing. The hat which so many people see as part of Holmes' identity, a deerstalker hat. So the word deerstalker is missing in here. And it is described to be unusual because it is worn by hunters in rural areas. Okay, let's go through the rest of the sentences. The traditional image of Sherlock Holmes is taken from that accompanied the stories, that was there in the stories. Many adaptations, and an adaptation is a film or a book that has been made from another film or book. So many adaptations of Sherlock Holmes stories changed the detectives. In one book, Holmes is in before the story starts. Now, I want you to pause the video and answer the questions. Well, the traditional image of Sherlock Holmes is taken from that was there in the stories. What do you think? The hat only became associated with Holmes when Sidney Badgett, the artist who illustrated many of Conan Doyle's short stories, chose to depict the detective wearing the hat in a number of his illustrations. The illustrations are the pictures that accompany a story or a novel. So the word illustrations is missing in here. Many adaptations of Sherlock Holmes stories changed the detectives. What do you think? If you remember, Sherlock Holmes is portrayed to be older. So the word age is missing in here. In one book, Holmes is in before the story starts. Holmes comes out of retirement. So Holmes is in retirement before the story starts. Well, moving on to a new set of questions. Do the following statements agree with the information given in the text? Write T for true if the statement agrees with the information. Write F for false if the statement contradicts, is not the same as the information in the text. Write NG for not given if there is no information on this statement in the text. Let's do question 5 as an example. In the books, Watson is the only character to use the word elementary. This part is where we have the word elementary in the text. Let's go through it. Holmes refers to Watson as my dear Watson numerous times, and he sometimes even uses the word elementary. So this is Holmes. In here, the statement suggests that Watson is the only character to do that, and this makes statement 5 false. Now, I want you to pause the video and answer the rest of the questions. Well, Woodhouse's characters often try to mimic Sherlock Holmes. If you remember, the word mimic means to copy someone's behavior or way of talking. This is where we have mimic in the text in a 1915 novel called P. Smith, Journalist, in which one of the characters mimics Holmes. So the text is only giving us information about one of the characters in one of the writer's stories. So we don't have information about this statement, and this makes it not given. The character of Holmes is sometimes shown as making a mistake. What do you think? Okay? The stories show that he was not always successful, and this means that Holmes sometimes made mistakes, and this makes sentence 7 true. In the books, it is clear that Holmes always worked alone. Let's consider this part from the text. However, in the original stories, the books, he makes an effort to work with the police. Let's get back to the statement. In the books, it is clear that Holmes always worked alone. So this statement is false. Moving on to a new set of questions. In which paragraph is the following information contained? So we have 4 pieces of information, and as you know, there are 4 paragraphs in the article. You're supposed to match each piece of information to its suitable paragraph. Let's do the first one as an example. An author, a writer, who contributed to Holmes' public image. Well, in fact, it was English writer P.G. Wodehouse who first used the line. If only Wodehouse had known how popular this line was going to become, perhaps he would have copyrighted it. So the line contributed to Holmes' image, and this is paragraph C. Let's go through the rest of the piece of information. Uncertainty about how a misconception started. We're not sure about how a wrong idea about Holmes started. Examples of times Holmes' character did not live up to his reputation. The word reputation means opinion people have about someone or something. To live up to means to be as good as. So, examples of times Holmes was not as good as his reputation suggests. Sherlock Holmes appearing in different media. Now, I want you to pause the video and answer the questions. Well, uncertainty about how a misconception started. We know that in the original stories, Watson and Holmes were in their late 20s, but they are often portrayed as being older. So we're not sure how we got this wrong idea, and this is paragraph B. Examples of times Holmes' character did not live up to his reputation. In paragraph D, we have some situations in which Holmes failed to solve some mysteries. So this is paragraph D. Sherlock Holmes appearing in different media, appears in many television shows and film adaptations of the books. So TV shows, film adaptations, different media, and this is paragraph A. Moving on to exercise D, and it is dealing with a very important skill that you need to have. This skill is guessing the meaning of keywords in a text. Look at the highlighted words in the text and match them with their meanings. So these are the highlighted words in the text. Well, let's see one example. What does the word intend mean? This appearance has become an essential part of the character and appears in many television shows and film adaptations of the books. However, there is no evidence that Conan Doyle intended for his detective to wear this outfit. So what do you think? There is no evidence that Conan wanted his detective to wear this outfit. Which of these has a close meaning to wanted, intended? This is option D, to have decided to do something. Moving on to depict. The hat only became associated with Holmes when Sidney Badgett, the artist who illustrated many of Conan Doyle's short stories, chose to depict the detective wearing the hat in a number of his illustrations. So Conan Doyle chose to show, describe. So option F, to portray, has the same meaning as depict, describe, show. Now I want you to pause the video and answer the rest of the questions. Well, the word regard means to view somebody in a certain way. Numerous means many. Utter means to say something. Mimic means to copy somebody's voice or behavior. And finally, impeccable means perfect. Moving on to exercise E. Do you think Sherlock Holmes is an interesting character? Why? Why not? Pause the video and think about the question. Well, I think Sherlock Holmes is an interesting character because he seems to get very excited about solving a case, and the reader starts to share his enthusiasm. He is also clearly very clever, which makes the reader respect and admire him. What do you think about Sherlock Holmes? This is the end of today's English lesson. Thanks for watching, and remember, this video will be available on Microsoft Teams for you to watch at any time.